J.D. Power survey that talks about attitudes towards electronic cars and, well, towards electrical cars and also self-driving cars. The attitudes haven't changed since 1997. It's 2020, folks. What are we waiting for? Especially when you were talking about electrical cars. So, what's the big takeaway? They don't think the technology is ready for self-driving cars. I'm going to raise my hand. I'm one of those people. They don't think that society is ready either. I think actually society is ready, and I think the technology for at least an electric vehicle, that's the infrastructure's there. I think we're on track. I think that we have a real obstacle to overcome, especially moving in from the coast and heading into central, Midwestern America and Southern America. But I don't think that that's a hard obstacle to overcome. And they're not sure about that whole public availability of the cars. I mean, we just talked about that truck that's truck no more. Rivian, gone. We're not doing that one anymore. And when we consider the fact that the market is still pretty tiny, it doesn't matter. I respect the Teslarati and all the Tesla fans, but you are a unique, an individual bunch of people. You're just a tiny subset of car drivers. So we're having a big problem getting people to change attitudes about buying. Hold up. What is this, New York?
Do we need to call the company lawyer?
Did somebody just walk into Costco without a face mask? Is that what you just heard?
I'm on the route to the hospital, and sadly, every day now we're not bad over here, but every day I see that. So we've got a lot of work to do. I think manufacturers are not doing the kind of outreach they need to do. They're not hitting the price points they need to do for the average driver. The average driver cannot drop 40 to 50K for a sedan-styled car. Sorry. If they're spending that, they're getting an SUV because they feel, hey, I need a lot of space. I've got 3 kids. They do a lot of activities. They're getting a truck. If you want this to work, you're going to have to meet the largest market of consumers where they're at. And I think based on this survey, we can definitely say they're not up to the task. The Tesla image is one of a very high-tech, very slick, very forward-thinking kind of driver. Hey, you guys are all got a big compliment from me. So there you are. You're practically the James Bond of drivers. You're cool tech, but that's not everybody. Not everybody's looking around for cool tech with a car. They don't have that kind of income to spend on a car, and they can't have a car that costs that much, and they've got to put something like maybe 50 to 60 miles a day of driving just getting things done. And I don't really see a big solution coming out of any of this that doesn't involve finding a way to make for a mid-price car that starts at around $25,000 and really hammering home that these vehicles are here for you. They're great to drive. They're going to fit all your needs, and they're here. They're ready. Go drive them. I don't know what else to say.
I respect the skepticism on self-driving. That makes perfect sense. Having driven a car that's as advanced as possible for consumers right now, I can see it. And if you're not paying attention, it will kill the shit out of you, just like a regular car will, except that you thought it was controlling it. But this with the EVs is very disheartening. Because we've got these guys, we can see that it can be done. We've got you're driving one, and you can see that it's being done. But the smear campaign against EVs, the manufacturers' reticence to actually do the right thing, and they keep coming out with these expensive whiz bang. A lot of them are ugly cars.
Yeah.
Well, and the dealer training is just god awful.
If they don't have it with flat tires in the back, unplugged with a 2% battery. Yeah.
You can't test drive an EV.
Yeah.
I know when I went shopping, I couldn't get into an EV without making a prior appointment. I don't want to make a prior
And even then,
appointment.
they might still not even do it right. Like, oh yeah, and then you get there and it's still where it was. Like, I called you yesterday. What the hell?
I saw one that I wanted to look at, and they actually didn't even have the keys for it. What?
They had a day to find the keys. Make new ones.
Back when the first Gen Volt came out, I went with a friend to test drive one. And the dealer said, well, we have a Volt, but it's not charged, but you can drive it as a gas car. And like,
what's the
point?
If I wanted a worse Prius, I would drive an old Prius.
Yeah.
I wouldn't,
And they just didn't get it, So we walked out of that dealership.
Yeah.
Some of the numbers that came out of this survey were absolutely shocking.
They really are.
If you look at the number of people with experience in electric vehicles, 70% of American respondents had never been in a battery electric vehicle.
Whoa.
And 75% of people surveyed said that they didn't trust the technology. And we're not just talking self-drive. We're talking the cost.
Across the board.
And it's mentioned here, the entire across the board that, I'm a Top Gear fan, and I saw Jeremy's car run out of battery, and he had to push it back to the garage, and so therefore I don't trust them anymore. Clarkson's such an asshole. But they don't. They don't trust the battery. They don't trust the technology
because they think when the battery poops out, you're stranded on the road.
Yeah,
right.
Mm-hmm. And it costs $10,000.
This technology, electrics and hybrids, is over 100 years old.
Okay. Yeah. Let me take the other side of this. Knowing that I support the product category fervently, let's go back to like when I first dived into this category in 2005 and got my first Prius, which at the time, we're talking about a car that was already 5 years on the market, okay? Didn't have huge market penetration, but it had already been up 5 years. People used to come up to me and stop me and go, does that go over 35 miles an hour? I heard they're like golf carts. I used to get like crazy questions. 5 years after a major
Where do you plug it in?
Right. Oh, all kinds of just bizarre, like it won't run when it's cold, right? And I'm in the snow in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Dude, right there with you.
We're standing in the snow.
Oh, you can't go on long trips with that. I'm sitting here with South Carolina plates in the middle of Michigan.
Yeah. People need more time and more experience. How do we get, and I guess this is one of those messaging failures that I think manufacturers have absolutely screwed the pooch on over just over the whole life of electrical vehicles on the market. How do you screw up this technology and just getting people to transfer over to it
on purpose?
Just on purpose. I mean, everything's a luxury vehicle. You don't combat the fact that people do think, it doesn't go over 35. I mean, that's so old for electrical vehicles.
Yeah.
Long since passed.
The original one did 28.
Yeah.
100 years ago.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, of course, we're the spearhead, and we're the tip of the wave. We're cutting edge, and
the early adopters.
We really are the early adopters.
But it's not early.
No. Hold on. Stop. I know. We were, and that's where I was going. We were early adopters 15 years ago. Yeah. Like Russell said, we've all been stopped and asked about hybrids, about batteries, about all of this. And we took the time to educate the people because we realized that 9 times out of 10, they weren't asking these questions because they were snarky. Right. They were asking the questions because they were ignorant of the technology. And so everybody had a day one, right? Everyone has when they're new to something. And so it was up to us. And we would go to car shows and we would talk to people who were looking at hybrid vehicles, not as a representative from the manufacturer, but as an owner. And they would listen to us because we were owners. Madison, Wisconsin, Eric Powers had the Green Drive Expo and Hybrid Fest, and we would go to that, and it was part of the Dane County Fair, and we got all kinds of public, foot traffic. people asked questions, and we took the time to sit down with them and educate them and show them and tell them how happy we were and how pleased with them. And, we'd like to think that we won people over, but we, the 6 of us, can only affect a very small population. And it really is up to the manufacturers to have this sort of outreach, to not have the uncharged vehicle with the flat tires in the back, to not be General Motors bashing the Prius, referencing the Sudbury mine, the ashes to ashes Hummer survey or whatever thing. And then they come out with a Volt and they're being attacked with their own FUD.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really did screw the pooch on this. I understand why people are ignorant of the technology and why they don't even want to take a test drive in an electric vehicle, because it's the manufacturers themselves who've been funding these think tanks to undermine the entire whatever arena or
the entire market.
Market, yeah.
And I'm going to point out one simple thing. We all have to sit here and endure those god-awful, stupid, I bought you a massive luxury vehicle for Christmas commercials.
Yes.
Has anybody done that for an electric car? Not even that. The traditional, out of reach, hey, look, I bought you a Beamer for Christmas, because everybody does that.
With the big red bow on the top.
With a big red bow on top. No one. I've never seen a car for an electrical vehicle that had a focused marketing plan that made it seem like a desirable luxury gift, even if it wasn't luxury priced. I haven't seen that. Yeah. So what's going on with that marketing budget, fellas?
Worse than that is, like, finally somebody took them to task about it, but you've got, like, Lexus over in Europe finally got their wrist slap for saying the self-charging EV. Like, no, it's not a perpetual motion machine. It's a gas car.
Gas car.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, the one, and this isn't a slap at them, so don't get defensive, but sadly, the one company that makes electric cars doesn't advertise. And that's what this is in need of, this product category. Look at hybrids are still, Paul. People come in and are like, oh, I don't want one of them ding-dang hybrids because it's got batteries and they're going to blow up or something. This is technology that has been deployed for 20 years. It is bulletproof. It is rock solid. I know. I love throwing in the ding-dang once in a while.
More than 20 now, 1998.
There are 16 million hybrids on the planet running around doing things. But people are still a little like they kind of get that the Prius is somewhat reliable, but it's still a kind of a foreign concept. So we're very early in that adoption curve, and we have a lot of work to do. We can't assume that because we know everything about it, everybody else does. And these car companies, Ford, Chevrolet, Chrysler, General Motors, to not just let the rest of the GM, have to do that work too. It's not enough just to make the car. You have to educate. You have to spend the money to advertise. You have to get these cars out there. It's not going, just like every other vehicle that they launch, people don't come to it magically. They have to create a demand, and they do, and they spend millions to create that demand.
But what I think is going to happen is if they don't step up and do it now while they are still the incumbent, they're going to get their lunch eaten by Rivian, by all of these little guys that are going to advertise. Tesla's probably not going to advertise until they have days of inventory sitting on the ground.
Maybe they should.
They should, at least for customer education and
customer education. Who always said all boats rise on a high tide?
Exactly. And thankfully we've convinced Musk to at least consider the idea to at least do an education campaign. He won't do it on the TV, so I'm curious to see where and how he does it, and to make sure he gets out in front of people, because he doesn't like Facebook, and that's going to be where you meet most of these people because they haven't seen it yet. It's just I'm curious how it goes. It needs to be done.
And one thing that we saw in the hybrid world and the Tesla world is people going for a ride in other people's hybrids or EVs wakens them up.
Yes.
So why doesn't Tesla have a program for Uber drivers? Say, hey, we'll lease you a car at a decent price to do your Ubering, because you're exposed. Well, not right now, but when the world gets back to normal, a couple dozen people a day that may have never been in an electric car, and you can tell them that it's the shit, and step on it, and they'll go, "Holy cow, that's pretty."
They do every time.
Yeah.
And that would do way more than putting an ad on the Super Bowl.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
And butts in the seats.
People got to get their butts in the seats of these vehicles to experience it.
Yeah. And that's why I bought my first
have a guy
Prius.
who works with us. He has a Model 3, and he happily takes people out for rides, and everybody comes back with a big ass grin on their face, saying, "I didn't think they were that cool." Now I get it.
Yeah.
I have
a couple things to say on this one.
Yeah, so I got a friend he's a lead foot. He owns several high horsepower vehicles, a couple of Shelbys. Yeah, I know he's got a Ferrari and a Morgan and a Jaguar I-Pace, because he rode in one and absolutely fell in love with it and just straight up bought one the next day.